Hello everybody and welcome back. So we're doing something a little different today. We haven't done a speed build in a minute, and part of that reason was because we were working on this new server that you're seeing right here. So let me give you some details about what exactly happened. So before we started this whole YouTube journey, we had a pretty big modded server. We had a whole bunch of things built. We had a whole bunch of progress that was just stream only. Then we decided that we wanted to essentially restart kind of. Our world had a couple of bugs because it was our first ever time doing a modded server. And so we wanted to essentially give it a clean slate, except we really wanted to keep our builds. And we weren't exactly ready to retire our world yet, but we wanted a fresh start. We wanted to help with the lag. We wanted new stuff to explore and stuff like that. So what we did is we essentially world edit, schematic and however you want to say it, our builds and all of our stuff, and we brought over our villagers and our connections and our pets and everything like that. And the intention was to just keep going with all of our stuff, but we're in this new world essentially. And we made a whole storyline and stuff like that, which is something that we commonly do on our Minecraft series. And we essentially moved to a whole new world. Now, when we were doing that, obviously it was beautiful and we loved the world, and continuing our builds was so awesome and great. But I think we were really ready to just start a new world and start a new series. But we were so attached to our builds because this was some of the best builds that we've ever done. And I do still plan on doing a tour because I am so genuinely proud of what I built, and I really want it to be forever somewhere. So why not YouTube? So we essentially then started working on this new mod pack, which I don't want to say it, but I think I might like this one more. There are obviously some mods that we couldn't end up getting into this one because we are switching from Forge to Fabric, and we added so many other mods to make up for it that I low-key think that it might be better. I don't want to say it yet though, because obviously we're only a little bit in right now. So the server's been alive for maybe a total of 3 weeks. Obviously every single person hasn't played every single day yet, so realistically we all only have a couple hours on the server. But essentially this is my starter house that I'm building, and I just wanted to give that little explanation because I feel like I was building in this one style and I'm completely transitioning, and everything looks different and crazy and everything. So I'm essentially making this magical town, and I am kind of going back to my original build style roots, and medieval is probably one of my most favorite build styles ever. I feel like it's just one of those iconic styles that always goes well, but obviously I wanted to challenge myself a bit. So one thing I learned from our last modded series was that weird funky shapes and texturing and all that type of stuff really works, and I feel like it's what gives everything a very unique style, because obviously symmetry and it being very easy always is pleasing to the eye, but I found I really like challenging myself. So that I tried to bring that over into this, and what you see happening now does eventually change a little bit, because I was building all this in survival. That's one thing about my speed builds, is that as much as everyone likes building creative, I just find something so accomplishing about building all this in survival. So pretty much the idea of what I wanted to do was I want to build a magical little wooden hidden oasis, essentially. My origin in this is a woodling, and I almost want to seem like I'm secluded. I don't want to be near people, even though I'm building a village, and I'm very much about my animals and the activities that I'm doing, but I'm not so focused on, I guess, normal things. So community-based things, and obviously that ends up happening because I am me and I don't want to be secluded from everybody. So it's kind of a funny storyline that I've kind of made myself for this character. I almost like hate everyone, but yet I keep getting sucked into these situations where I'm having to deal with people and learning dynamics and everything like that, when all I want to do is just farm animals and make food and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a funny little dilemma that I have going. But the part that makes this all magical is that I really want it to look like we get everything from this magical forest and we don't take it for granted, and we almost built everything around that. So I want to make it look like our builds are almost fueled by like the magic and like crystals and things like that. And obviously this is modern Minecraft, I'm gonna end up playing with some technology, and so I want to somehow make it look like all these energies and magical things are what are fueling all of my technology, all of the house's energies and everything like that. And everything, I just want to make it seem like it's all connected through this like magical forest essentially. And this forest is very dense, and it very much proved how hard these speed builds are going to be to film, because I mean, look at the screen, there's a million trees around, and I love it so much, and that atmosphere feels so good when you're actually in the village and playing, but it caused a lot of issues for playing, so there's that. But I've been trying to use the trees and all the flowers and landscaping kind of to my advantage, and I really want to try and wove it into everything, and I really want to make everything feel connected and intertwined and on purpose. And the funky parts of the builds are for a reason, and the, you know, mold growing on the side of the house is for a reason. And that is one thing that I think is going to be what's the most challenging to me, because I can decorate the outside of a house. You know, I can put a little lawnmower and a little grill and stuff like that, but storytelling is where it kind of gets a little bit difficult. And obviously with modded, it's so much easier to do storytelling through little objects and things like that. But I'm talking about storytelling through actual decorative structures and the builds evolving in a sense. And so this actually ends up only being part 1, because I realized how much of a challenge this is going to be, and this is going to be a long process. So this was my house part 1, and part 2 will probably be more atmospheric and decorative, and I hope you do enjoy. I will be doing as many speed builds as I can on this village because I am enjoying it so very much so far. I do already have 2 other speed builds in the making, so hopefully you guys will see. Again, this server is completely public, and if you would like to join, we would love to have you. All you have to do, join the Discord to get the mod pack and everything like that. Server's already loaded onto there, but any details, questions, anything like that, everything is on the Discord, and I hope you guys enjoy.